All right. So, the 6 tenets of post-plagiarism. Just an overview. Um, as we all know, writing is changing. So must our conversations about authorship, originality, and integrity. So, post-plagiarism refers to a concept introduced by Sarah Eaton. It acknowledges the increasing influence of AI in education and the need to rethink academic integrity and ethics in a world where AI tools are increasingly used in learning and writing. So the term post-plagiarism emerged as a way to move beyond those traditional definitions of plagiarism, which focus on detecting copied text instead instead addressing the broader implications of AI in education. So I acknowledge that there are a range of responses here. I know that some of you may be enthusiastic and really embracing AI. Some of you may be adaptive, cautiously curious. Some of you are going to be very resistant. I totally get that. And it's dependent on your context, your course goals, learning objectives, etc. So all positions are valid. This session just makes space for us to really critically engage with this framework and think about it in the context of our teaching. So let me resize my window so you can see this a little better. Can you guys see that full one, Victoria? No, can you see the full image?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the image that Dr. Sarah Eaton uses for her 6 tenets of post-plagiarism. So I'll just kind of start on the left and go counterclockwise. Hybrid human AI writing will become normal. So hybrid writing, co-created by human and artificial intelligence together, is becoming prevalent. Soon it will be the norm. Trying to determine where human ends and where artificial intelligence begins is pointless and futile. Human creativity is enhanced. So human creativity is enhanced, not threatened by artificial intelligence. Humans can be inspired and inspire others. Humans may even be inspired by artificial intelligence, but our ability to imagine, inspire, and create remains boundless and inexhaustible. Language barriers disappear. So one's first language will begin to matter less and less as tools become available for humans to understand each other in countless ways. Historical definitions of plagiarism no longer apply. So historical definitions of plagiarism will not be rewritten because of artificial intelligence. They will be transcended. Policy definitions can and must adapt. Attribution remains important. It's always been and always will be appropriate and desirable to appreciate, admire, and respect our teachers, mentors, and guides. Humans learn in community and with one another, even when they are learning alone. Citing, referencing, and attribution remain important skills. And then humans can relinquish control, but not responsibility. Humans can retain control over what they write, but they can also relinquish control to artificial intelligence tools if they choose. Although humans can relinquish control, they do not relinquish responsibility for what is written. Humans can and must remain accountable for fact-checking, verification procedures, and truth-telling. Humans are also responsible for how AI tools are developed. So, just quickly, one by one here. Hybrid human AI writing will become normal. We're going to start seeing this human and AI partnership in writing, and it's going to be soon a standard practice. Blurred boundaries, and it's impossible to separate human from AI writing. We know that these tools are becoming really pervasive. As I said in the last session, they're in Word, they're in Google Docs. Students and others may not even realize that they're using some of these tools, but they are. Human creativity is enhanced. So she indicates that AI can be a creative stimulus, not a replacement. Um, Human creativity remains inexhaustible, but there are new pathways for expression and innovation as a result of AI. Language barriers disappear, so we get universal communication, breaking down language or linguistic divides. Real-time language conversion can happen. First language becomes less restrictive. Relinquishing control but not responsibility. Verification is always required, so fact checking is essential. Tool development and use. Ethical AI creation and use is a human responsibility. I would extend that even further beyond just development. I think she maybe says use, and I include also development because the development of a tool also defines how it's used and the type of information it puts out. So we've got to really be intentional about the way we develop tools and use tools. Um, and then ultimate accountability. The author owns the final content regardless of the source, so you own what you produce. So if you put something inaccurate out there, that's on you. Attribution remains important, so recognize all influences, acknowledge your sources. If you used AI, say you used AI. Um, Community learning, knowledge builds through connection, academic tradition, so we respect the intellectual lineage, and integrity practice. Citation remains a crucial skill. So she states that historical definitions of plagiarism no longer apply. So the earliest definition that I could find of plagiarism myself is from 1620. There was, I think it was a Latin poet, accused someone of plagiarists, I believe is what it was, which translated to English means theft of ideas. So that became adapted to English to be plagiarism eventually. And our understanding of that concept has always been kind of theft of ideas. A lot of it, though, has been based on pre-digital concepts in that technology didn't influence how you could just take someone's words and reprint them. So technology has changed the way that plagiarism behaves, if you will. Now anybody can go in and highlight something, copy and paste it, right? And that's plagiarism. So as technology advances, we kind of adapt these ideas of thought theft to new technology. But at some point, where do we have to uh, like just completely transcend the definition is her argument. So she states, at this point, this is beyond rewriting. There's a fundamental shift. So adaptations required. Policies have got to evolve, transcend what we currently understand as plagiarism. So at this point is where I was going to open it up for discussion. And I don't even want to start with these questions. I actually want to get your reactions first. So I'm going to put it back on the main image here. What do you think? How does this strike you?
I totally agree. That goes to the to my previous statement in a previous meeting. So yeah, this is all true for me.
Okay.
I agree.
I
Okay.
was gonna push back. I think I put in the chat, the human creativity is enhanced. That one to me seems the most tenuous because AI can also take over our creativity. And yeah, that's the one that I think that how we're using AI could affect it, could enhance it, our creativity, or replace our creativity.
Yeah, that's certainly a lucrative area of research for cognitive scientists right now. Any other initial reactions? Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do at this point is put you guys in breakout rooms. And what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to put in the chat a link to this image so you have it. Post plagiarism. There we go. Headshot. There it is. All right, so there's a link to it now in the chat. I'm gonna toss you guys in breakout rooms. I see people left because they don't want to go to the breakouts. Let's see. We're gonna do 2 or 3 people per breakout room and chat about which one of these resonates the most first, if any. Which of these do you think, yeah, I'm definitely on board with that one specifically, and why does it resonate? And then I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes, you think, Victoria? 10 minutes? 5? Okay. We'll do 5. And then come back, let me know what you think. So those are open. So you can go ahead and join your breakout rooms, and I'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay. Everybody's coming back. What thoughts did we have? Anybody just hop right on in?
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
So the three of us, like the one that really resonates with the three of us was humans can really control, but no responsibility. That one. And then we go over the human creativity is enhanced.
Okay.
And I mean, that's the one that is, at least in my case, I still not 100% sure. Like, I guess it depends a little bit how it's implemented.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back to the example of the calculators. Like
Mm-hmm.
in the past, since people didn't have like that easy to use a calculator on the cell phone or whatever, people were forced to actually do their math in their brains. But if you have the facility of doing or something doing that for you, you can get into this comfort zone on not pushing yourself to do it. So that's the one that, I mean, I guess is what you say, like cognitive people has a lot to research to do on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my favorite one, I'll go ahead and tell you, is humans can relinquish control but not responsibility. It's my absolute favorite. But I am open to other people's favorites. Any other thoughts? Oh,
I'm really drawn to the first one about like the futility of trying to find the line between human writing and AI writing, and that collaboration, if it's not the norm already, is going to become the norm. And I think that's important to keep in mind when we're thinking about, like, if we find ourselves having to think about academic integrity in the writing process, I think it's worth thinking about the fact that when this conversation started, we thought a lot about, like, I gave a prompt and my student copied and pasted that prompt into ChatGPT and it shot out an essay, and they put that in Word and they submitted the essay, and that is unethical AI use, right? Well, we're at a place where, as you, Heather, you've pointed out, AI shows up, it's pretty ubiquitous, right? I mean, it is embedded in the word processing programs that students have used all their lives. And our students have come up in their education using Grammarly, right? Which is now able to do generative AI work, right? And so I think, we may be in a place now where we need to think critically about the fact that if we're choosing to use a detector, and a detector is saying this is X% likely to be AI generated, it's very possible that a student would be able to say, no, I wrote that. I wrote it, right? And I used Grammarly to edit my work and to try to make it as academic as it can be and turn in the strongest product that I could. And now I'm in trouble, right? And that could feel kind of off-putting to a student or confusing, and I think it's a gray area worth thinking about, because it's very likely that what a detector picks up on is AI enhanced work, right, or edited work, and not AI generated work. And if we don't grapple with that and know what we're comfortable with, then we could be kind of jeopardizing an academic experience for a student.
Mm-hmm. And something you've brought up in the past, Victoria, that I like to refer back to as well is, you know, when you catch a student supposedly using AI or for producing something with AI, a lot of times you may be catching a student who has fewer resources. There are tools out there that you can pay for that will humanize AI writing. I tried one the other day, uh, and then, I mean, just took something straight from ChatGPT, copy and pasted it into it. Um, it went from 100% AI to zero. So your students who can afford to pay for those are not going to be the ones you catch. Um, Also, something that Victoria has mentioned, um, you might find somebody who just, was desperate and needed to get it done fast and just made a really dumb decision. Um, Instead of a more serial kind of cheater, if you will. So anyway, just wanted to add that on because that's something that she has brought up in the past that I think is an excellent point. Other thoughts?
What AR detectors are out there that's pretty accurate?
Mm,
Do you have any that you think is pretty close? They're all just kind of inconsistent.
yeah, all of them are accurate to a certain degree. But for example, Turnitin at one point was like, we have a 4% false positive rate. If you consider how many papers are submitted to the university in a given year, Troy pulled that number for us. At one point, Troy is our LMS admin. And I think when we looked at it, 4% of that number was what, like 1,000 and something papers, Victoria?
Big. I don't remember the numbers. I wouldn't want to mislead, but I mean, 4% sounds small, but in raw numbers, it can be pretty big.
Yeah. So, yeah, some of them are going to say, we've got a 95% accuracy rate. Yeah, okay, that's great. The 5%, how many people is that really affecting? And that can ruin a student's academic career.
So you're saying that it falsely identified that they were plagiarizing when they actually were not? Okay.
Correct.
Versus,
Yeah, correct.
And that's false positive rates and doesn't really even get into false negative, right?
Right.
So, a student who can pay for the paid version of ChatGPT and the services that will humanize writing and has the time to really figure out how to use these tools, and is doing this habitually, it's just unlikely that you're going to catch them, right? And those are the people we want to catch, right? I mean, like we want to get that to take care of that, right? You know, when you catch somebody who you know just made a bad call, I think when you know that, you tend to handle it differently. Like, hey, what is going on? This was a bad choice, right? I'm talking to my 4-year-old now. Like, this is a bad choice, right? But what was going on? Like, there are consequences for this, but man, what was happening that made you make this decision? Like, we would handle it, I would think, that way instead of like, you messed up once, I'm throwing the book at you. But like the moment that we're in, I think it feels AI feels so insurmountable when you're looking at trying to catch people using it in a dishonest way. It's overwhelming. It's hard to keep up with the advances as they come so fast, right? And we know that as faculty, we put so much energy into our classes and our teaching and the craft of teaching. And when a student cheats, it feels just inherently disrespectful and personal. And because AI is such a hot button right now, catching a student utilizing it feels so it hurts, right? And so what that can lead to, at least what I would imagine that would lead to for me in my teaching, were I to leave it unchecked, would be like, I can't believe you would do this to me after all the energy that I put into trying to help you, you know. And you know, I don't know that it has to, I don't know that it has to be taken care of that way. And I think keeping our literacy about AI up to date as much as we can helps us maybe with the human side of this too, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I mean, I work with this obviously on a daily basis, right? And last year, I taught through my PhD program at Missouri, I taught one of the undergrad courses, and I had a student that I knew, I knew. But University of Missouri, you can't even use an AI detector. You can't make a referral based on an AI detector. So it was one of those things where I just had to be like, I know that this is what's happening. But once I started grading the work didn't address what I was wanting it to address. So, I mean, a poor grade was given anyway. Um, other thoughts? Did other people have different favorite tenets? And I can pull the
Mine just sort of, I just had a comment. It was sort of like what you were just addressing. I was wondering what people really do because I've had that same situation where I know that this student has pulled this from something else. And I've done
Yeah.
exactly what you guys are suggesting. I've read through it and I thought, wait a minute, they're missing some elements to the question or to the, whatever the prompt is. And I can do that, but what other places are there certain places you go to check? And if you have done 1, 2, and 3, you're just everybody's out of luck, or I'm just wondering what people in general do, or do you just go, okay, you got me, and
Yeah.
yeah.
My guess would be, and like the faculty who are on the call who are teaching regularly, please feel free to chime in with what you do. But like my guess would be that what's happening in practice right now is that faculty are going to free detectors, running it through a couple of different detectors and seeing if you're getting a consistent reading. And if you're getting a consistent reading and you've got the feeling like maybe you start, like maybe that's kind of the evidence that we're using at this point to go to the dean of students. I think there are good practices if you've got the space in your teaching load, right? Teaching loads are overwhelming, but if you can go to the student and say like, hey, so this looks fishy, maybe they'll like crumble and tell on themselves. And like at that point you can, I don't know, say like, hey, again, like this was a bad choice, buddy. Like I need you to rewrite this, like, and I need you to do it yourself this time because I'm not giving grace a second time, I don't know, maybe there are those processes. I think this moment also gives us some space to, like, you know, I don't know, think about valuing the process of producing a piece of work, right? And maybe instead of like 2 research papers, you cut it down to 1, but you're really going to go through each step with them and grade each piece. And so the final product isn't 70% of their final grade, right? That like the research paper as a whole might be 70% of their grade, but you're going to give 10% to the thesis workshop and 15% to the outline, and then some percentage to 2 drafts before they turn in a final or something like that. You know, I'm speaking as a writing instructor where like that's the meat of
No,
what we do. And
I
so that's
think
the
you've
time that we
nailed
spend,
it.
you know.
Yeah.
You nailed it. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know who's talking.
Shanti.
Yeah. No.
Hey,
Yeah.
Shanti.
I think you nailed it. I think it's that process, especially in the English-based, writing-based courses,
Mhm.
helping them build their practice and
Yeah.
saying, hey, the bad choice, let's go back and redo this. And that way it's the marathon, all the steps along the way, and not just that race to that final
Yeah.
ending paper, whatever. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something that I've seen mentioned as well, and this is what helped me in my specific situation, is getting really specific in your rubrics and your grading criteria. So the course that I taught was it's a 2000 level course required for all students who are seeking teaching licenses in the state of Missouri. And it's about integrating technology into the classroom. So they are required to basically go online for like a particular assignment and find a lesson plan online that does not include technology or does in some way, but they don't like the way it's included, and adapt it. So it was really specific what they had to do. And then my grading criteria was like, I can see from the original, and then I can see these changes, and it's based on these frameworks that we've learned in class, based on this reading that we talked about last time we were in, a Zoom meeting together. And that is what helped me in my specific situation, because I was able to give a lower score because it was like, no, this is so general. You're not integrating anything we've talked about in class. You're not referencing the framework that I told you to reference. It's just generic. And so that has helped. I will also say I should have probably shared this earlier. I'm hosting a workshop later on this semester about AI resistant assignment strategies. That's a whole like 45-hour long workshop too. So definitely look for that later on in the semester.
There's a conversation happening in the chat that I might want to give some space to. So Catherine, I'm going to read your comment, and if you feel comfortable jumping in and just kind of talking through this, please feel free to jump in. But Catherine Ludwig in the chat said, I had a couple of papers I was suspicious of last semester, so I ran each through 3 different detectors. And if at least 2 said a significant percentage AI, I asked the student to explain their writing process. So not outright accusing them of anything, and then decided if I wanted to pursue it from there, which phenomenal approach, right? And then Darren asked, I'm curious to know what happened next. Interesting chat. And then Catherine, if you are open to jumping in, love to hear from you.
Yeah, so those papers were for a class that I teach. The class only has 1 paper in it that they do at the end. It's a relatively small percent of their grade, so it's not like a huge term paper. But so 2 of the papers I was reading them, I'm like, this, sometimes now you see a suspiciously good paper and you're like, this might be AI. But there were 2 of them that I was kind of suspicious of. So I ran them both through 3 different detectors. 3 because I was wary of those false positives you guys were talking about. One of the 2 only one said like 33% AI. So I'm like, okay, that one's probably all right. The other one, I went to the student and I asked them to explain their writing process. And he gave a pretty satisfying answer. He talked about like where he got each of the sources and all that. So I think maybe he just, some of the wording it picked up on, but I ended up not pursuing either of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I asked them to explain the writing process is, no one wants to be accused of using, AI tools if they didn't use them. So, I would recommend that approach to anyone. Just like asking them to explain it in detail how they wrote their paper. And I really liked his answer, so I ended up not pursuing it.
Yeah.
I
And I
have
wonder
a
too,
question. Besides Turnitin, what are the other AI detectors? I'm not aware of them.
There's a few different free ones. One that I used was Zero GPT. The other two that I used, I can't think of their names right now, but if you look up like AI detector tools, some will come up.
oh, and we have some linked on our AI resources page on the Walker Center website. And we try to keep those updated based on like what's the most reliable. Keep in mind you're going to an outside tool, and so you don't want to put any like student identifying information into those tools. But the practice of kind of triangulating several to see if there's consistency,
Mm-hmm.
better than relying on just one.
Yeah, and I would encourage, and I think Dr. Sarah Eaton encourages this as well. If you're going to use detectors, go ahead and let students know whether you embed that in your AI, in your policy, in your syllabus statement. Just let them know. That way they're not sitting on pins and needles wondering all semester, and then, or maybe they're under the impression that you're not, and then they're shocked when you do. Just
Well, and those tools are AI powered, just like an AI generator would be, right? And so if we're going to ask students to cite and disclose their use, we should cite and disclose ours, right?
yeah. We've only got a few minutes left. Any additional thoughts on? Go ahead.
If we could talk a little bit about one of the other tenets, Shanti, I'm not going to put you on the spot. If you don't want to jump in, please don't. But when we talked in our breakout about the 6 tenets, Shanti talked about the historical definition of plagiarism kind of shifting or no longer applying. And I think that is a really important thing to be thinking about actively, right? And it's a definition that Sarah points out in her work changes and has changed throughout the history of education, right? And it'll continue to change, and it was going to change whether generative AI came on the scene or not. It's going to change rapidly now because of generative AI, but it's not like this has always been what we think of as plagiarism, right? And that idea of thinking critically about what we're getting at when we talk about plagiarism and what that means now, I think is going to be an important kind of reflective responsibility of those of us who are teaching.
Yeah, Darren linked the two in the chat. Those are the two that I use most frequently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And like what's occurring to me in this conversation, if I can take 1 minute of our 2 minutes that are left, I think this like we feel a lot of weight to guarantee that the students are earning a grade that is reflective of them learning the content that we're here to teach. And that's always been true, right? I mean, that's why we have Turnitin in the first place, to look at plagiarism, right? I mean, like we want to certify essentially that what the students are learning is what they're actually learning, if that makes any sense. And so we feel, I think, this weight or this pressure to make sure that students aren't leaning on a tool to do the work for them and not learning the skill and or the content that we're here to teach them. And so in a sense, we are really thinking about the value of a UTC diploma, a diploma in our department, and defending that actively, right? I think it's also worth thinking about that if we send students out into the world having only heard that generative AI is cheating, that it's bad, it's also not necessarily doing them the best service, right? And so we're in this place that is potentially unfair, right? But we're having to learn very quickly new tools and the best responsibility to hand over to students for how to use it and when not to use it, right? And that's a heavy lift. So I just want to, I don't know, I want to validate that it's a hard moment, right? There's not an easy fix here. The answers are complicated.
Okay. Well, that is the end of our time. So those who need to go, please go. I'm going to stop the recording.